say that we currently have 9,900 satellites in orbit, in all the orbits, in all sizes, for several applications, for several projects. Thank you. And very few of them are for African countries. So today's panel, we will talk a little bit about the space in Africa and how we can use space services and products for our priorities. So first of all, I would like to introduce our speakers. So first of all, we have Mrs. Vania Vangelia Pereira, am I pronouncing it right? Yeah. She's a Deputy General Technical and Scientific Area, GGPN. We have Teridayo Onunsom, Managing Director for Space in Africa. We have Mr. Yuri Sumbi, who is Head of Fiscal Technical Department of the Fiscal Services Directorate, AGT. And finally, we have Dr. Adi Van Dunham, who is Director of Studies and Projects in NDMA. Welcome, everyone. I would like first to start with a question to you. So the first question is regarding the need of databases. So we know for every region we have services for all the programs and services, and also the projects. And same applied for the statistics of the existing projects, existing satellites, and so on. So in the last decades, we suffered from the lack of information. Thank you. I hope it will be fixed now. So yeah, and we do need to have further entities to determine exactly and reliable, and also to give up-to-date information. And I do believe that Space in Africa is playing a great role so far. So how do you think that the existing databases are in Africa, and how do Space in Africa play the role to make it even better?
Hello? Okay. Yeah, thank you very much for your question. I think basically you can grow an industry without adequate market information. Investors need to know what is going on in this market. Is it going to be profitable in the long run, and things like that. And policymakers also need adequate data to make informed decisions and all of that. And I think with respect to Africa, about a decade ago, this was one of the major things that was missing in the space and satellite industry. There was no access to information, but not just access to information, there was no one putting all of this together for government and commercial players to make use of. And that was one of the reasons why we started Space in Africa as an analytics company. So the goal was to create industry and market data, put them together, and develop insights from this. And then policymakers can make use of these insights to make decisions. Investors can make use of these insights to know what the next step should be. So, for example, one of the things we did in 2019 was to publish the first comprehensive report on the African space and satellite industry, figuring out how much revenue is the industry generating, what is the valuation, what is the business opportunities, how much money is flowing across each of the segments and all of that. And that sort of like revolutionized the industry because, nobody knew how much money was actually flowing in the sector. And that report actually provided, very useful insight to that, and you can see like a rapid growth in the industry since then. So I think that this is a very good start. Market and industry-based information has really helped catapult the growth in the ecosystem.
We all know that there has been a big jump in the space programs in the region. So do you have an estimation of on percentage how many countries in Africa could already have a very concrete space program?
So today I think we have about 22 African countries with some sort of space program. You know, some of them have established agencies like Angola. Some of them have launched satellite also like Angola. Some are just starting to work on their policy. Some are, you know, working on some small satellite project. Up to date, I think we have 16 African countries that have put at least one satellite into space. And altogether, they've launched, I don't have the raw figure in my head now, but I think they've launched close to 60 satellites so far. But we estimate that, you know, by 2027, you know, between now and 2027, about 100 new satellites will be launched. A lot of them are currently under development. Some are at conceptualization stage, but you know, more countries are developing space program, and a lot of the satellites that were launched in the past also need replacement. So there's a lot of projects ongoing across the continent.
Sounds great. So moving to Vangelia. So here we have the next question concerning the national space program. So I know that you have already an established space program that is based on, I believe, 5 main pillars to be able to solve the national problems and for the national priorities. So can you a little overview about it?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Orania. Exactly, we have 5 pillars on the national space strategy. I don't know if I should speak in English or in Portuguese. Are you comfortable with me speaking in Portuguese? Okay. Estratégia Espacial Nacional.
Space strategy is divided into 5 pillars, among which the first has to do with the space infrastructure, and then we also have the promotion capacity building pillar. We have the industry pillar in the promotion of the space industry. We have the internationalization pillar, or in other words, establishing partnerships, establishing international partnerships, and then we also have the internal infrastructure pillar in order to support the modernization of the space area. All these pillars have been contributing a lot for the growth of the space industry in the country, and also for, as it was mentioned by Temidayo, at this point in time, in terms of space infrastructure, we have the launching of an operational satellite, which is Angosat 2. We had the first one, but as a result of the land lessons with the first, we launched the second one, which is now operational, and that is providing some services in terms of our, not just in the center, but in terms of certain economy sectors. We have the control emission center, which operationalizes the satellite in orbit, and has been also supporting the wall sailors in terms of its satellite capabilities. In terms of promotion capacity building, we have pretty much a lot of advancements in terms of capacity development of our employees. We have trained more than 70 officers over the past 3 years. I have numbers with me, more than 1,500 specialized technicians in terms of satellite communication training. We have been creating a comprehensive training program with other academies in the country, with Agustin Neto University and other national universities, both in the capital but also in some other provinces of the country. We've been very much engaged in promoting and capacitating transfer of knowledge in this space area, because we realize that space is very critical cross-cutting aspects, and it starts from the academy. So there's this binomy between the industry and academy. So one of our major pillars has to do with the training and capacity building, and another pillars have also been incorporated, such as the trading or the commercialization of Angosat 2. We've been able to establish partnership with different institutions, not only in the country, but also in country, but also overseas, and we've been able to create partnerships in MOUs and with the international institutions, with Zambia, for instance, where we have a memorandum of understanding, and we have heard the Honorable Minister say that Zambia has started doing testing with Angosat 2 at Flu Connect Angola, which is a project that has been widely spread out in many provinces of the country. We are talking approximately of 18 or 17 points in 12 provinces, and with Zambia is one of the points outside the country. So we've been doing quite comprehensive work in terms of the national strategy, with all these pillars being developed and being implemented. And during our conversation, I'll be able to delve on each of these. Eu já penso que você já tem.
Right?
De facto, a nível de colaboração interna,
In terms of internal collaboration, we have two major partners in the panel, and these have been benefiting some services in terms of satellite images that I've just mentioned. And these are, we do use satellite images and recreate some tools. For instance, AGT has been using, and they'll be able to, the fintechs, how they've been using this, and also Techminas, where Indiana has been widely using, and we've been creating a lot of synergies, and they've been very happy with what we demonstrated, but they, better than us, are the ones who be able to tell the story. Yes, we have quite good partners in this panel. Eu posso entender o contexto. Vou voltar.
Regarding the AGT, so you have the TechCast, is it the right pronunciation? So the application that is using satellites-based data, so the Angolan satellite. So how is it going? How the General Tax Administration is taking advantage of this technology, and how far it is going?
Obrigado.
Thank you. Good afternoon. As Engineer Vania had explained, the Revenue Authority, based on the partnership we have with GPN, we have developed a tool called TaxGest, which allows us to manage the assets. Or in other words, we have a tool that allows us to have a real-time vision of the quantity of assets that the state needs in order to collect taxes, property taxing, tax collection. And this allows us to have a comprehensive vision of the potential of this tax that is charged on property. We're talking about urban properties and rustic properties. Just to give you an idea, we as the tax administration, General Tax Administration, we then evaluate about 300,000 assets or real estate that have been registered, and with the partnership we have with GPN, and after being handed over to TechGest, we then got a picture that we have identified more than 11 million polygons, potential 11 potential 11 million polygons that could be brought into the database of the General Tax Administration. So if we had to compare 300,000 assets that have been registered with the 11 million that were identified that are not outside the control of the General Tax Administration or the General Revenue Authority, in other words, there are challenges that were placed onto the AGT. As the use of these two, this will enable us to expand the real estate that the Tax Revenue Authority is supposed to register. We're talking about the total area, the total coverage area, the available services, and these will expand the work of our authority. In other words, it's an extremely powerful tool at the service, at the public service, since regardless of the assets or the taxes that are going to be collected by the authority, they are supposed to be channeled towards the local development or municipality administration. So we have a tool that allows us to strengthen the tax collection, and that will be another value surely between the Tax Revenue Authority and GPN.
Dr. Hadi as well. So for Indiama, so I think you also use satellite data right now for mining support process. I think it made a great difference for the traditional way of using data for mining processes. And how does satellite data helping you right now? Is it real-time data I would call, or used accurate data for mining processes?
Thank you, Vanya. I'm just going to speak in English so it's not too complicated. But anyway, we can go back to Portuguese.
For your question, good afternoon, everyone. I was just explaining that I was speaking English just so that it's easier to follow. And then, but yes, so what's the history with us, with ourselves in Yama? Well, we found out about the opportunity that there existed with the team at GGPN. Actually, Director Vanya and our board director, which is my direct boss, made it possible for the teams at Indiama and at GGPM to get together and to look at ways and opportunities where we could potentially cooperate. So the specific challenge with us in Indiama is that we operate in very, very remote areas. So they are manifold. One of them is that the areas where our projects are, they are usually off-grid, let's say, and so both telecommunications and internet access are critical and are lacking, very, very lacking in those places. In addition, we have to deal, unfortunately, with, we say, garimpeiros, we say artisanal miners, which deplete the resource that we have very often in these concessions that we have, and they become a risk both for our teams in terms of the safety and their safety and the actual carrying out of the exploration programs. And they also push away investors when they know there's these issues going around and there's compliance and Kimberley process compliance issues, and so it's a very negative aspect for the country. And what we came to find out with GGPN is that we could have a very solid partner in helping us both with the remote sensing and remote monitoring of those areas. So we don't need to send teams to those hot spots necessarily physically, because it's a dangerous thing. It's way more economic to do it via satellite images, and we're very, very happy and very successful in that sense. At Endiama right now, we have more than 44 different exploration projects. So exploration for the people who are not mining are the initial stages of the mining process. And we have another 24 different mines, which are currently operating mines. And all of those players are potential customers for the solutions which we, together with the GGPN team, have put together and have developed. We see huge potential. We are still engaged with the team and fine-tuning the tool and looking at ways to improve it, but there's this tremendous, and one additional aspect that's very key for us is, like Director Vanya was saying, the quality of the people that they have at GGPN, because these guys have been trained in the best schools in the world. They really know their stuff. They cooperate and partner with the premium, top-notch institutions doing research. They publish papers. They do actual research, and so that gives us confidence in the tool that's being developed, right? And so, just not to monopolize the conversation so much for now, I will just stop here.
Yes, I'd like to ask you also concerning the data you have. Did you have any cases in which the data was not accurate or was not fine enough or was not exactly in the territory you needed?
Again, very, very good point. For us, Indiana, and for mining companies in general, so we are, with the data, we are a little bit different than most companies because, say, an exploration project, the entire meaning and the entire point of the exercise that you are engaged in is the data and the quality of the data that you're going to get in the end. All the investment, all the time spent, all the tools, all the paying for people. What we want actually is the data. And if we find that in the end that data is not that accurate or is too expensive to acquire, then it makes the project infeasible and not economic. And the GGPN with TechMinas and the tool that we've developed, it makes it much more attractive because you can do more with less necessity, less data, let's say. So you can extrapolate further using less amounts of initial inputs because they can leverage those artificial intelligence tools, algorithms to do, which I guess we will talk more about later.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So it's very interesting to see these collaborations going on between entities and also between the private and public sector. And for this, how do you see it going on, Temidayo? So I see that it has been well developed mostly in North Africa and in South Africa, also in Angola quite a lot. So how do you estimate it is going on, how it is also helping us to develop the space sector in Africa?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think this is one of the areas that Angola still needs to grow. A lot of the activities, space-related activities here is being driven by the government, but you can build an industry when there is no, private players. So, there is a need to grow an ecosystem of private sector players that can take the product and services to market, or they can even conceptualize product and services. The space industry today is really all about business, and usually the government don't know how to do business. They don't do business very well. So you need you need the private sector to come in. You need investors to come in to do that, and this is already happening in a lot of countries in Africa. I think for Angola, you've built, you have a large communication satellite. You're conceptualizing an Earth observation satellite, but all of these services, all of these products, you need to build an ecosystem of private players that can actually take them to market and, sell to, institutions like AGT or even the mining institution or the oil and gas sector or, whatever you're trying to sell your product and services to. And, this is very important. Across the industry today, we've got about around $20 billion worth of revenue across both the upstream and downstream segment of the industry. And so, for countries and institutions that are, well positioned to do proper business, not just, in the country, but like across the continent and globally, they can actually attract a large chunk of its revenue.
And so here we talk more and more about the upstreaming, Mrs. Vangelia, so building products, satellites, and also being able also to make the good downstreaming, so to use the satellite data. So Angola has 2 satellites and a third upcoming. And what are exactly the main challenges you estimate that has been occurring before and the existing one that also for the services, and how we can prevent them or how we can avoid them for the future?
Thank you, Harnia. I think I'm going to join the team and speak in English to facilitate you as well. Yeah, we have had already 2 satellites launched and 1 in operation. And there's been definitely many challenges. The first one is because we are very new in the space field. So we need to build an ecosystem, just like Timothy said, that can flow this type of technology from the upstreaming going towards the private sectors, towards having the attractiveness of the sectors that need these services. And this has been really the main challenge, because sometimes, because we are new in the field, there needs to be awareness for these companies, these sectors that need this kind of technology, that needs this kind of services, to put them aware that we have this capability, not only in terms of human resources, but also in terms of technology itself, and how we can make this kind of services so attractive that they can then get these technologies for them and make use of it. Because for many years, companies like, for example, even Indiam and many others, they would look outside the country to find these kind of solutions. Unfortunately, it's not just something that happens in Angola, but in Africa itself. We tend to go a lot for the outside in terms of Europe, America, and many other countries who are already in the run for space for a long time. So we try to rely more on their kind of technologies because they've been in the space for a long time. But we tend to forget that the capacity building that has been done, has been like invested in, has now given so many results to the point that now we are kind of, even in terms of leveraging what we have in terms of capacity acquired and also the experience that we've gained throughout this experience, we are also able to provide in the same quality, same level of expertise that many countries that already have been in the run for a long time. We're talking about Russia, we're talking about US, and that's why we also make some partnerships with these countries, because now they can see that they can speak eye to eye with us. And this is something that has been a challenge that we have now to convince sometimes some of our own local company sectors that what we have built indoors, inside, it's of the same quality, and it can be acquired and used exactly as if it was outside. And also another challenge that we've been facing is in terms of knowledge, capacity building for the society. It's still a new thing. Before, people used to think that having a satellite is a commodity. It's something that is like, yeah, those people who are rich, who don't need really to have to look at the poverty and see other situations going on the field, that these are the ones who need satellites, not those who are now looking still for bread and food on the table. But now we have to make people aware that these kind of services that the satellite brings, that the space field brings, would actually help solve many of the situations on the ground. And that's why most of the objectives of the Agenda 2030 of the United Nations rely a lot on the satellite and space program to solve these kind of objectives in the sustainable development goals. They are really relying a lot on solving this kind of problems with the satellites, with the space, and so we cannot put them aside. We have to walk hand in hand with them, and we have to continue to capacitate, to continue to make awareness of the whole society, the importance of these satellites. And just to wrap up on that, Rania, because of this, and now we have this big challenge of having connectivity even outside the urban area of our country, going to remote areas. This is what we are trying to do now with Connecta, with Connect Angola, and with the partnership of many other operators like Angola Telecom, INSAT, FATCOM, Infosi. We are now being able to put this kind of technology in some areas outside the main urban area, so that people can also try to have more advantage and feel the impact of the communications that they don't have and they have never had even before our independence. So this is something that we are trying to push. It's a challenge because the country is vast. There's still a lot of work to do, but we are taking the steps, we are getting there, and I'm sure that with the help of the government, which they are being really helpful, we're going to get there.
For sure. So I think also the Angotic, the Angola satellite, third one, it's supported by Airbus, right? And yeah.
Have yet a third satellite yet. As even Temidayo said, we are now on the verge. We are kind of procuring and making now the advancements to acquire, to start building a satellite, which is an observation satellite. But in meantime, we are using, through partnership with some companies outside, like Airbus, Thales Alenia, and so many others, we are now being able to acquire satellite imagery with high quality that we use then to make this kind of platforms like TechJazz, Tech Agro, Tech Ecologia, which helps monitoring the oil offshore to detect oil spill offshore. So these are the things that we use, not yet the satellite itself.
Yeah, interesting. So here, I come back to you, Mr. Yuri. So here for the satellite data, how do you see that satellite data made a difference in your application, and how secure and sustainable it made the fiscal services so far?
Thank you. As I was saying at the beginning, we have a significant impact due to the amount of information on the real estate that are subject to property tax collection. We administer a database that does not contemplate not even 1% of the information of the properties that are supposed to be paying property tax. With a tool developed with GGPN, we have more visibility in terms of the challenges of the tax revenue authorities, so as to find this information on the properties. Obviously, we do have challenges, and the tool was launched about 6 months ago. We are in initial phase of its use, and this is it needs to be carefully used. And let me just give you an example of the type of information that the tool actually presents. Today we have a legislation that taxes property. For urban buildings, it uses the information from the covered area. And what the the information provided to us, it's possible to get this information of the covered area of a given property via the usage of this tool. And we have challenges to get information on the covered area of the more precise information from the covered area of the building. Because let's say if it's a building that has 600 square meters, and through satellite images it's possible to estimate, instead of 600 we will estimate 900 square meters, and then our text on 600 square meters, and then charge a taxpayer to 900, and we're talking about a considerable amount of added tax to be charged. So we will need to work on eliminating this, so as to make sure that the information provided on the dimension or the size of the property can be as precise as possible, so that we won't apply an unfair tax and avoid grievances from the taxpayers. But we give a lot of importance or relevance to this to the General Tax Administration or the Tax Revenue Authority, and this will also allow us to establish the principle of the truth and clarity, where the authority always waits for the taxpayer to declare on the size and the features of its property. And with the tax tool, we have a benchmarking tool, and they don't necessarily need to wait for the taxpayer to bring this information. With that information, with these images, it's possible for me to get updated information, and then I do not necessarily need to wait for the taxpayer to declare before finalizing or consolidating this information as comparative information. I'll put it in my system, and I can already call the taxpayer so as to clarify for additional clarification. So there is a gain in terms of efficiency and resources.
Thank you. So, Dr. Ali, so here we come back to the private data we have. So the quality of data is one of the most important inputs you need for mining processes, and also secure data as well. So we are unfortunately in an era in which secure data is one of the biggest challenges, even for spacefaring countries. So we are still lacking enough processes to protect the data coming down from satellites, and also to have good quality ones. So how do you tackle with it? How do you try to use the existing data, even if it's not 100% as you want? And how do you estimate? Is there any existing softwares to make it better? Is there any processes you do after having the data? How do you do it?
Oh, good. Great question, Rania, again. So the technical details on how to secure the data, I actually kick the ball and shoot that thing to the GGPN guys, because they're really computer scientists and all that, and they really understand the infrastructure. But I just wanted to share with the audience the importance, the actual importance, and what's key, what's different with regards to a mining company versus a generic, another activity company. So usually when we think about data security, we're thinking about they're going to read my financial statements, my balance, my P&L accounts and all that, my financing structure, those things. I don't want my competition to know that I have so much debt and those types of things. But in fact, with a geosciences mining company, it's not just that aspect. In diamond, for example, again, we mentioned before, when there's different stages, and when you are in that initial stage, the exploration stage, your actual main asset is the information that you were able to obtain. So for a company that's doing geology, lots of geological research and exploration, that's their asset. So it's not really the statements and the let's say the camp that you built or your trucks. It's the actual, that information. So you want it to be, that's all or nothing. You want it to be bulletproof 100%. And then with diamonds specifically, there's actually the marketing and the selling of the diamonds, which is very, very, it's opaque, and it's not a transparent process like, let's say, you're selling gold or a different commodity. With the diamonds, if the information on the quality of the stones and the size frequency distribution, which is a proxy for the value of your product, is it leaks, or if it's known by the competition, then you're condemned not to sell at the actual proper best price that you can sell, because these guys coordinate and they build sort of cartels. I don't want to use too strong of a word, but they can coordinate and just define, put a ceiling on how much you can sell your production. So again, that's sort of a death sentence, because then all the investments that you would eventually be able to do, the support for the local communities and so forth, those all become impacted by that. And so we are fairly confident. I mean, we also have some our IT people. They shared in the building of the tool, in the process. There's the head of our IT department has been involved, also Dr. Saturnino, and we shared our concern with GGPN, but we don't have concerns so far in that sense. We feel the tool gives us sufficient confidence and assurance that the infrastructure is safe and it's okay to operate with. Yeah.
Very good, thank you so much. So here, Tanidayo, I think you followed the interesting discussion so far, and I can see that satellite data for Angola, at least, it has been very beneficial. It made a big difference in many industries. So do you consider that we are reaping the benefits of satellite data or space services in Africa in general, or how far we can go with it in the next decade?
Yeah, absolutely. I think even though generally our investment in space and satellite is very small compared to other regions, I think we're reaping the benefit, but it can be much more bigger than this. If you check the entire Sustainable Development Goals, for example, almost every problems there can be addressed with space data, satellite data. And these are some examples that that we're getting today, whether it's in agriculture and food security, or in insurance, or weather forecasting and disaster management. Africa is reaping a lot of benefits in this area. Talking about weather forecasting, for example, right now in Africa we don't have enough weather station to actually cover the entire continent. And in fact, a lot of countries, they don't have, the distribution of weather station on the continent is very sparse. So we don't have enough in-situ data to, forecast weather or predict disaster and all of that. And, the major solution to this is just satellite data. Satellite data is what is helping us forecast weather in Africa today, helping us know of, impending weather, weather problems and other sort of disasters. So I think relatively, satellite data is helping with a lot of the problems that we're facing. There are other inherent problems like security, national security, border control, and management that, satellite data could also provide a lot of values to that, a lot of countries are currently not taking advantage of. But personally, I hope that, before the end of this decade, with a lot of countries trying to develop space program and, an African space agency that is becoming operational, we're hoping that a lot of countries would go up and take advantage of the values that they can get from satellite data. And the interesting thing is you don't have to own a satellite before you take advantage of satellite data. In fact, you don't even have to pay. There are terabytes of free data that are available that you can use for different types of analysis, and that can help create solutions to a lot of problems. And we hope that more institutions, government institutions, private sector would take advantage of this.
For sure. So and I think with the growth of technology and with the new satellites and services, we do need people who will build it and who will use it. So I think the main focus right now, in my consideration, is to have the local capacities, right?
Absolutely.
So this is the same question for you, Mrs. Vangelia. So here, the local capacity. So do you consider that we do need further training? So what are the example of trainings you have in your mind, and do we consider that we have now become a little bit more autonomous in terms of making a product or making a service 100%, either in Angola or in general in Africa?
Rania, absolutely. Capacity building is like the backbone of everything that we go through and we go on with the space. Starting from really universities, starting from the academia, starting building small satellites, because just like Temidayo mentioned before, there are countries that don't even own a satellite, but they start with some projects at school, like having some for scientific purposes. They start building small satellites, CanSats, and we have had that path as well for us to get to where we are right now. We started from those small satellites going to different countries like Japan, where we done different programs like CLTP and with UNICEF. So we started building this capacity from scratch. We had no idea how to even operate a satellite before. And the main challenge we had was that we, as Angolan, as citizens, were the ones who had to operate our satellite, who had to go through with the space program. So that was a big challenge, because in terms of capacity building, we had pretty much nothing. And most of the backgrounds we had were from different other subjects, different other professional backgrounds. So we had to kind of all put the guards on and just start really, as they say in theory, building the plane while it's already flying. So the program was running, but yet again we had to start capacitating ourselves. So this is really the main ingredient for a space program to work, and that's what we have been doing throughout these years, either academically, like for example through partnerships with Airbus, we were able to train and capacitate more than almost 15 students in terms of master's degree in different fields like project management in the space field, space application and services, which have been really a good help for now making these kind of platforms like TechJazz, TechAgro. That was because of this capacity building we've acquired. And in different universities like Supairo, Isaïe Supairo in France, like we've kind of picked the best to make the best products, to make the best results. Also, knowledge transfer is very important, because a country doesn't go on its own, and we also cannot reinvent the road. So if we have already some countries who are already doing that, whether in Africa or in some other countries, and they can transfer that knowledge to us, through partnerships or exchange of services, then why are we trying to reinvent the road? We can use those knowledge that they have and bring it to us, and we are doing the same. As we build up our more knowledge, we now transfer it to students at different universities, so it goes like a loop. And we try our best to keep motivating schools, universities to acquire more and more knowledge on that field. And hopefully in the near future, we will be able to instigate those kind of subjects also at universities that have things related to space, so that it can be sustainable. Otherwise, we are young, yes, but we have been running through these space programs for a long time, like more than 10 years. But then the next generation needs to catch up. So they need more training. It's an ongoing thing that will not stop now. We need to have these interactions even with different countries to continue that.
If this is both for upstreams, for building products, and also for using the data.
Absolutely.
Maybe for the services that would be even a little bit easier, but for making it, because you need the entire infrastructure for making entire satellites built or spacecraft to be built.
Absolutely, especially because now we have a lot of AI, artificial intelligence, and so many chat GPT, so many things that are now coming up and that are integrated in the space technology as well. So we cannot stop in our just normal knowledge. We have to continue to learn, continue to go and further our knowledge on these different steps of acquiring knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Yuri, so I come back to you to the question to ask you also regarding the challenges, either technically or even human-based challenges from AGT point of view. How do you see that we can use better satellite data as an end user, and what are the things that you are consider as limitations right now?
One of the key aspects on the usage of on the satellite image for tax collection or generation of revenue will be associated with the possibility of identifying duplicate properties or overlaps. We are coming out of a phase whereby we had a merely physical registration, and we used the information encoded on paper. And so we then started digitalizing this information, and we are currently moving towards this transition, digital transition, so that this data become a 100% digital through satellite images, meaning that we have an opportunity not only to clean the data that we have migrated all over the years of existence of the Tax Revenue Authority, using this information that would serve to apply a fair tax collection and allow this information, but that by the time it's going to be used for taxation, it's going to be a more concise information as possible. And the Tax Revenue Authority used the real estate regulation legal principle. So all this information goes to the authority until the property tax registration. All entities that are part of this legal regulatory aspect, including AGT, if they are to get updated the information, thereby ensuring the quality of the information that will be used in order to ensure legal security, legal safety of these properties, and then there will be an opportunity to continue improving the tax chest, which is the tool made available by GPN through this collaboration, and there will be a possibility of working of enabling. So our officers will be able to develop tools, and they will also be driven by artificial intelligence, meaning that we have a great opportunity of creating a tax collection, in particular the property tax collection, that will allow us to gain efficiency with technology. With technology, we'll be able to cover as much as possible the number of properties in order to expand the basis. And with this very same technology and with less resources, we'll be able to increase tax collection. Olhando para o
future. So we talk a lot about AI. Even it's still in my consideration still basic. So in the next decades we will see hardware AI, which is anamorphic platforms and things that are even on top of what we have. So the use of AI, and I think it's already used for current satellites data treatment, I would say. So how is it used so far? And what are the technologies you estimate will be also needed to make the mining processes better?
Sure. And then, Rania, if I may, I'll just pick on something that Dr. Vanya said before.
Sure.
And before coming here, we were just at a different panel at a different institution. And then the panel was about the impact of the diamond activity in the economy, local economy. And one of the aspects that was discussed is, and one of the reasons why our activity isn't as impactful as it should be was we found out exactly this human capital component aspect, because we are often from the revenues that we make selling our diamonds, we're then exporting those same revenues by buying services abroad, services such as the one that GGPN is now providing, offering locally, and that makes our own activity less impactful. We are exporting intellectual property, right? Because we're hiring people to build these tools and these solutions at very high cost, and that again is exporting resources. And that's something we can replace if we can do it locally. So it's a very, very valid and very beneficial point. On our side, our thinking is, let's just leverage the investment they already made, because they trained and formed these people. And we at Indiama, right, with Tech Minas will just reap the benefit of their investment. We don't have to go